Bolt fam, take a deep breath because the vibe in Los Angeles today is heavy. There's serious movement on the offensive line, a star being questioned, players fighting for their future on the roster, and a coaching decision that could change the way we look at this entire offense. It's one of those days where every detail matters. You are not going to believe what we've got today. So get comfortable, drop a like, and let's jump straight into it. Because if this plan really works, the Chargers season could flip completely in just a few weeks. And while we're still trying to digest everything going on with this team, there's a behind-the-scenes storyline that could completely reshape the future of the Chargers offensive line. Have you noticed that with all the injuries, there's one guy who simply never leaves the field? Zion Johnson. He's easily the most stable player in that group, the one guy who gives you that feeling of you can trust he'll be out there for the next snap. And it's no coincidence that Jim Harbaugh keeps praising exactly that. The Ted thing, there every day. The guy who shows up every practice, every meeting, every game. But there's a detail almost nobody is talking about, and that's where it gets interesting. Joe Hortiz didn't come from just anywhere. He was molded in Baltimore, in a franchise that specialized in taking versatile linemen, testing them at one spot, and then quietly turning them into the starting center the following season. That's how it went with Ryan Jensen, Matt Skura, even Bradley Bozeman back there. First a trial run at another position, then the full transition to the middle of the line. Now put the pieces together with me. Zion Johnson in the final year of his rookie deal, fifth-year option declined, playing at a really high level, clearly the most reliable guard on the team, and a coaching staff that values leadership, intelligence, and durability right at the heart of the offensive line. You really think that's all just coincidence? Or are Harbaugh and Hortiz quietly setting up a bigger test for him, using this season as a silent laboratory? Picture this. Instead of spending big on a veteran center in the offseason, the Chargers reorganize things from the inside, move Zion to center as the anchor, and bring in new pieces around him. That would completely change how they build the rest of the roster, free up cap space, and most importantly, put the offense in the hands of someone Harbaugh clearly trusts to protect Justin Herbert. Of course, it's not a risk-free move. Changing positions takes time, chemistry on snaps with Herbert, and a whole lot of patience from the fan base. The big question is, will the front office be bold enough to back this kind of plan, or will they stick to the same old script and chase a quick fix on the open market? Bolt fam, let me know in the comments. Would you accept Zion Johnson as the Chargers' future center if it meant a more solid line and a more competitive team over the next few years? Now take another breath because this next storyline hits right at the heart of the franchise. Justin Herbert just had one of those games nobody likes to remember, but everyone has to break down honestly. When your franchise quarterback finishes a game with just 81 passing yards, no touchdowns, one interception, and gets pulled in the fourth quarter, there's something much bigger going on behind that loss. Let's break it down because there are layers here people aren't really talking about. Herbert was coming off 3 straight wins, running the offense, making quick reads, dodging pressure, and spreading the ball with confidence. Then came the game against Jacksonville, and everything fell apart. The pressure hit early, the offensive line crumbled, and in the middle of that chaos, Herbert took one of the hardest shots of the season. The brutal hit from rookie B.J. Green was so violent it drew a roughing the passer flag. And even then, Chargers fans were left with that sick feeling that something just wasn't right. What makes it even more symbolic is Harbaugh's decision to pull Herbert and put Trey Lance in. That wasn't just protecting the starter, like coaches always say. That was a silent message. The team was completely out of rhythm, emotionally rattled, and failing to protect its most valuable asset. Herbert was frustrated, disconnected from his line, and for a few minutes his face on the sideline said way more than any stat line could. Meanwhile, the NFL is reviewing B.J. Green's hit. It could turn into a fine, maybe even more. But for the Chargers, that part is almost secondary. The real issue is, how did this team get to a point where its franchise quarterback is taking that kind of punishment on basic plays? This isn't just Herbert having one bad day. This is about structure, about protection, about trust. Now, with the bye week on deck, Harbaugh has a golden opportunity to reset the offense, clean up communication on the line, reassign responsibilities, and most importantly, get Herbert mentally centered again. After the break, it's the Las Vegas Raiders. An emotional divisional matchup, the kind of game that can completely flip the mood in the locker room. So the question is, was this loss just a one-off outlier, or is it the final red alert warning that something fundamental in this offense needs to change? Let's keep going, because the third storyline of the day hits directly at the future of this roster. While everyone is focused on the playoff race, there's another battle going on, A quiet personal one where 4 Chargers players are literally fighting to stay on this team. And at this point in the season, that's not exaggeration. Every snap is a resume, every mistake is a sentence, every play is a job interview. We start with the most fragile part of this roster right now, the offensive line. The wave of injuries has exposed everyone, but Trey Pipkins might be the most under pressure. With over 20 pressures allowed and fewer than 300 pass-blocking snaps, he's walking that thin line between valuable emergency plug-in and we just can't keep relying on this. He knows it, the staff knows it, the fan base knows it. If he doesn't show clear improvement after the bye, it's hard to see him having a real role in 2025. And it doesn't stop there. Tyler Conklin, who arrived as a short-term fix at tight end, is watching his role disappear. The offense has started to spin more and more around Aronda Gadsden, and when that happens, the veteran tight end becomes a complementary piece. He went from more than 30 snaps a game to around 10. For a 30-year-old heading into free agency, that means only one thing. Either he has a strong finish to this season, or the Chargers are likely to move on without thinking twice. Then there's the name fans keep bringing up almost daily, Austin DeCulis. He's been exposed in a brutal way. His metrics are among the worst of any tackle with 200 or more snaps. And to make it worse, the arrival of Trevor Penning puts an even brighter spotlight on his struggles. The reality is simple and harsh. He has no more margin for error. Every snap he plays from here on out could be his last in powder blue. And finally, Bud Dupree. He started the year in solid form, but the trade for Odafe Owe pushed the veteran to the bottom of the rotation. 1 sack on the season, limited impact, and a contract that could free up around $3.5 million in cap space if he's cut. You don't need to be a cap guru to read that situation. He's got a few weeks left to prove he's still a real weapon, not just a name on the depth chart. What makes this even more intense is that while these 4 are fighting for their own futures, the rest of the roster needs them locked in to help secure a playoff spot. That creates massive internal tension. Everyone playing for themselves, but also for the group. The question hanging over everything, which of these 4 is going to seize the moment, and who's already halfway out of Los Angeles without even realizing it? Now hold on, because we've reached the most sensitive story of the day, the one that hits a raw nerve inside the Bolt fam, the never-ending saga at center. From the moment Bradley Bozeman arrived in Los Angeles, a chunk of the fan base never fully bought into the signing, and as the weeks went by, the frustration only grew. It's not a small thing. Out of 37 centers graded by PFF, Bozeman ranks dead last. Last in overall grade, last in pass protection, last in run blocking. When your center is sinking at the bottom of every metric, no offense is going to look right. What makes all this even more intriguing is that Jim Harbaugh has been dropping hints for a while that he wasn't fully convinced. In the preseason, he even tried flipping Bozeman and Zion Johnson. And even though the experiment didn't stick, it revealed something important. The staff itself was asking, can Bozeman really hold this down long term? So far, the answer looks like a no. The fan base spent weeks begging for Andre James to get a chance. He came in with starting experience from the Raiders, used to the heat of divisional battles, and with a solid track record at center. And he finally got his chance in the worst possible context. The team getting blown out by Jacksonville, Herbert already on the sideline, and Harbaugh throwing the second unit onto the field. It was the perfect opportunity for James to prove he should have been the starter all along. But what followed was a shock. On his first play, a simple handoff turned into chaos because James got knocked straight back into the running lane. On the second, a low shotgun snap, combined with poor blocking, created immediate pressure on Trey Lance and almost ended in a fumble. In just a few minutes, hope turned into frustration. The performance earned James a middling PFF grade around the mid-50s, better than Bozeman, sure, but nowhere near strong enough to force a change right now. This is the kind of situation that leaves the fan base completely split. On one side, people are exhausted with Bozeman's struggles. On the other, James hasn't exactly slammed the door and claimed the job. The hard truth is this: the Chargers head into a crucial week without a clear, convincing answer at the most important spot on the interior of the offensive line. And that brings us to the big question everyone's wrestling with. Is Harbaugh going to double down on Bozeman's experience, gamble on James's inconsistency, or quietly start building a more radical solution behind the scenes, like we talked about earlier with Zion? So let's close this video with the kind of energy the Bolt fam deserves, because after all this, it's clear the Chargers are in one of those defining moments that can shape an entire season. The offensive line is living somewhere between hope and chaos. Herbert needs protection and a real reconnection with this offense. Several players are fighting just to stay on the roster, and the center position remains the most sensitive pressure point on this team. The only real question now is, which of these storylines is going to explode first? Drop your opinion in the comments and make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow we're back with even more fresh Chargers news.